Nice F1 shirt there, bro. Product plug.
Well, they sent me a shirt.
He's like, I'm a dealer now, so you know.
It's true. Yeah.
See, I'll shrink back here a little bit so my head's not so giant.
Most of our listeners are listeners anyway, so that'll be fine.
Cool.
Yeah, obviously, I have my partner's wardrobe here in the background, so it's pretty professional on our end.
All right, Bowen.
Mags.
Walt, I'm Dylan.
What's up?
Right on. Welcome.
Right on, guys.
Yeah. Welcome to the X-Bolts podcast.
Oh, wait, I thought it was welcome to Wang's World.
No. Could be.
You know, Wang's World.
Yeah, that's going to be something. I mean, here we go again, talking about Parawings. Like, what else can we talk about?
Oh, is that what we're talking about today?
Again? Yeah.
Again?
It's that thing that you tow behind a boat, right?
Yeah, no. So I didn't listen to the whole Foil Rat podcast that you just did recently with Danny, and I'm sure there's a lot of history in there, and you know your background and stuff like that. So we're gonna let listeners go on to that and figure out your story. But what we're doing here is getting down to the nitty gritty of what all of these Parawings have, right? Like the good, the bad, what's the best for who, we don't know. And
exactly. Short people, backwards people.
Yeah. Kiters, non-kiters, wingers, so there's a lot of different background. People are using them for different things. So I know it's hard to narrow it down, right? Because what Parawing is for who, right? So, and I know you've done a lot of testing. I've done a lot of testing, but not as much as you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, you guys probably have more hours, I'm sure you've gotten to ride a lot of stuff though.
Yeah, but Dylan doesn't really know what he's riding when he's riding it. He just kind of comes back with an opinion and then goes out again. It might be a different opinion the next time. So I think your actual, you trialed this thing, you worked it out, and you've got some good feedback on which ones are working, right?
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is to have been able to do that a bit, actually back to back, right? Most of us just don't hardly ever get to do that. And yet then there's also the danger of, you get something new and you try it and then that's the greatest thing again, because it's just what you were just out on. But yeah, everybody wants to know, all this new equipment and, there's of course different nuances, right? It's a whole new sport. We're all learning at the same time. And, so what works, for different things, what are the characteristics that matter, and what are some of the differences, right? And also, people coming from different points of view, whether it's wingers, kiters. I love how Dan says wingers. You notice that? The Foil Rat dude, he's like wingers. I'm going to start using that. It's sick. So whether it's wingers or kiters or surfers, right? Or, surfers, foilers, downwind foilers. People are coming from different angles, right? So yeah, I'm just here to rap with you guys and lay it all out on the table. And just to say, the way I kind of came into this, thanks to the Inertia, by the time we get this up, that this whole buyer's guide that I've been working on this spring will be out. And that, the Inertia is like an online publication. It's all about surf and the outdoors. And there's a whole bunch of stuff there, but there's also a ton of reviews and then these comprehensive buyer's guides. And so I'm going to run down, all this equipment, all the characteristics, a whole bunch of stuff about parawinging as well, just kind of as a sport, helping people to understand it. So thanks to them for kind of sponsoring my efforts here in learning to wang.
To wang.
Well, this is just perfect timing for something like this to come out too, right? Because we got Parawings in our hands the end of last summer, and then over the winter, everybody's hustling to put out a product. So we were all testing, right? We were trying to buy whatever was coming next and get our hands on it and go ride it. But for us in Puerto Rico, it wasn't necessarily the best season for wind. I didn't have as many days that I'd like, and along with the fact that you get one and then a big gap and then you get another one. So we're not really getting that back-to-back trialing. I know we just did that in the gorge when Dylan was here, and it was definitely eye-opening. Even though I'd already tried most of the Parawings I'd flown, being in the same day in the same conditions, changing between equal sizes, right? And going back and forth, you really can start to feel the nuanced differences between the flow, the ozone, whatever. We've got about 7 or 8 of them now that are worth talking about. Yeah. Right. Other than your Mike's Lab hoodie, what makes you such an expert? Because I feel
that's
like you
pretty
have to
much
be an expert to have a Mike's Lab hoodie, right? Like that's like a primo piece.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any of the foils. I just have the hoodie.
Bro, that's all that matters, man.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was saying to Dan, and again, that was so rad to have that convo with him. He's a cool cat. Check out the Foil Rat Pod series. I grew up in San Francisco, and, this is a sailing town, right? It's also known for some other things. We got a lot of hills and, et cetera, but it's really very much a sailing venue, a world-class sailing venue. And that's the point of view that I come from most of all. I didn't grow up surfing. I grew up skateboarding a lot on the hills of the city, and sailing and doing other outdoor sports. And so throughout my wind sports career, that's been the common thread is sailing more than anything else. And, I have a little bit of wave riding background. And then of course, as we got into kite foiling, and then wing foiling, that's how I got into foiling. Right. And it's really just with that gradual progression and now coming into the Parowing era, that I've started to get a taste for, really riding the foil and making those turns, that if you're a surfer, you know how to turn. So let's just say I know how to go straight really fast, and I'm still learning to turn. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. So, how'd you start off, and how long ago was it? And then where did that, obviously you've been testing all of these things out of your own interest, for nothing else. Now you have this, big article that you're putting together, but that was just out of, because you've done all of the work already, right?
Well, kind of. I was starting to get into it, of course, curious about the whole Parowing thing and just as an evolution of all these sports. But I'm a writer as well. And, the two kind of have come together for me over these past couple of years again and brought me back into this whole world of wind and foil sports as a writer. And so I started doing some stuff for the Inertia last year. As Parowings began to become a thing, late last year, we started talking about doing this in anticipation of this whole full season, right? And all the product releases that we knew would be coming.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. I don't know if we're all surprised or not, but, every brand, of course, has one out. And there are a bunch of other brands that have emerged, of course, that are, just because they came up, they're innovating something with regard to Parowings. And so, name the brand and they've got one out. There's some I haven't touched, that are kind of more European-centric brands. But most of the global brands, let's just compare the list of the ones that we.
So what are the key attributes, right? What are the key attributes you kind of looked at across all the Parawings that you were comparing? And then, I think it'd be really cool to kind of go through your list and give us, your thoughts on each of the available wings and how to apply them.
Well, and what are you looking for?
Yeah.
Right. Because everyone's a little bit different. I'm coming into the Parawing more as, I do it all, right? Kite foiling, winging, wanging, whatever. Surfing, foil driving, but I come into the Parawinging for downwinding, right? Yeah. And that's what I came into it for. And then now I've kind of explored the other side of it and being like, oh, well, that's not my only use case now. I don't touch a wing anymore.
Yeah, right. And I think that's what folks have quickly discovered is that even, though it was invented for downwinding, there's lots of, we're all starting to just use them, as you go, as a replacement. Although, of course, there's some things they're better for and others, not as much. So, the characteristics that I looked at, there's I don't know, a whole bunch of them. Ease of use. How intuitive is it to fly? Agility, right? And maneuvers, how easy is it to whip the thing around? Stability, on the other hand, kind of across the wind range. And then, all the Parawing specific stuff like the behavior as you douse or collapse it, right? That kind of, stroke, when you stroke it and wad it up in your hand. And then from there, the stowing and packing, right? Just running through these characteristics. The lines themselves, is one of these nuances. Obviously, with like an inflatable wing, you're talking about the handles or the boom. I guess the parallel would be the bar with the Parowing, but the lines are, as we all know, super important, not just because of the length matters, but the feel of the line set, right? And also, of course, how the wing is bridled. And, because you're running your hands over those lines, all day long, so to speak, the thickness, the stiffness, the slickness, how they're, attached together in different sections, whether they're, what the hell is that word that I'm looking for? They're not tied with little knots. They're spliced, right? That's the word.
Spliced.
They're either spliced or they're not spliced. These little tiny things actually make a big difference because you feel that every time you go to collapse the wing. And then like sailing characteristics, right? Speed, upwind angle, and the combination of the two, which makes something that sailors call VMG, right? So velocity made good upwind. The wind range, and going from the low end to the sweet spot into the heavily powered range, and then what happens when the Parowing gets overpowered, right? Those are kind of the four sections of the wind range that I consider. And then looking at the low end in particular, how the construction of the wing affects its low end power, its pumpability essentially. And then at the high end, this is a big area of discussion is like, how well does the thing hold together at the high end of the wind range? And there's some important reasons why that's such a factor with Parawings, right? I'm sure we'll get to that. So all those things and probably some more, I guess, overall versatility, and you could sum it all up, right? How does this thing fly, right? How does it feel in your hands? But yeah, those are at least some. What have I missed?
No, that's absolutely it. And I think it's like we can kind of dissect each of those categories, right? And there's a lot to talk about with them. Some of them being really kind of the hot topics. I think the top end of the range and how it performs overpowered is totally one of those ones that really the range plays such a key role in how you can use these things. And I think like we feel that really in a big way here in the gorge because our gust range is so massive. And I think it really helped me kind of hone in on like, wow, how important that is. And also it just gives you the flexibility of having like a one Parowing that can cover you in a larger range of speeds. It allows you some flexibility. The other is the line length and line feel. I mean, that's a very tight nuance of the sport and the equipment that I think is probably going to be a really hot topic of discussion because that's where everybody's making changes. And that's probably where like a lot of the changes are sitting, right? When you look at all the brands as far as like what they're going to be using on the next version. And, I get worried people are going to get scared of the longer lines out of ease of use and we're going to lose performance. I think that's one of the things that probably is being an attractive thing to go after for the new products is they're trying to get products in people's hands. Obviously BRM came into something cool with the line length and the bridle and everything, which has made for like a ton of ease of use. But do you get that at a loss of performance, which at the end of the day, man, we're so excited about where performance could go on this stuff.
Yeah. I heard you guys talk about that in your last episode. And I thought that was a great point that you brought up. Everybody, that's kind of the first thing you do. You pick up a Parowing and you do that stroke movement, and you're like, oh, can I reach the end of the lines? and the answer is no for at least half of them.
I have to double stroke my pocket rocket.
Bro, yeah, I know. And you should do it in the dark. I mean, when you do that. just saying.
Wrong podcast.
I couldn't let that one up. I was like,
no. Yeah, exactly. And so if you are collapsing the wing, and if you're doing that a lot, then that matters a lot. But if you're not collapsing the wing or dousing the wing, as I call it, or stroking the lines very often, or perhaps not even at all, right? If you're free riding and, that just might not even be a factor really. It won't be for some riders. And I agree, with your point there, Walt. It's like, if I'm just out ripping for maximum speed, reaching, going upwind, blazing around, doing GS turns and kind of chasing what have you, without ever collapsing the wing. Hey, I mean, they could be 2 meters long, or more. So yeah, it depends on your use case. It's super important. I think everybody has this kind of downwind dream for a minute, because it sounds amazing, but some people are just, they're not going to do that or not going to use them that way. But if you are, that line length is important.
So what do you think on line material also? Because obviously we see a pretty big range of the materials that are out there using for the lines.
Yeah. It's been cool to see. I mean, this is one of these things that like sailors really geek out about, right? Is cordage. And, again, like big boat sailors too, they just bug out about lines and the line feel and the stiffness and all these things. Right. And, I mean, if you look at Greg's lines, it kind of feels like what we used to call Q line. Is that what it is? I don't know if it's the same material.
I don't know, but I agree. I think so.
Yeah. It's like a solid, sheathed, smooth, with enough stiffness that it doesn't, knot up or anything. I think F1 is using something really similar, and, their lines feel killer to me too.
Yeah, they're not Dyneema, they're like, there's a line inside with like a sleeve over the top of it.
Yeah, it's sheathed. Yeah, is the term at least we would use in
the feel on those is really good.
Super good. Again, so yeah, BRM and F1, those feel pretty similar to me.
Splice connections. I mean, I think he did a great job of thinking about how that line was going to feel in your hand.
Totally. The ozone lines are the V1 pocket rocket. Everyone knows a lot of people are cutting them down. They're a little soft also. They'll probably tweak that. A lot of the others, are pretty similar, except you've got the like duotone. And at least the V1 NSYS, I haven't seen the updates that NSYS made, but man, the lines, I don't know if you've flown that duotone, stash. The lines are so thin. They're super thin, which makes it, very stashable for sure. But the feel, you feel like you're going to cut yourself. You're not going to cut yourself, but they feel too thin.
So let's go Parowing by Parowing then here. So that we don't jump around too much and we focus on their attributes, what they're good for, or they're no good, and then we can like bounce around. What do you guys think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
sure.
So I mean, you've got the list there because you're our main tester. I'm on your podcast, so
right. So tell me, I'm just curious. Like we'll compare, but like which ones have you flown, you guys?
I've flown the V1 BRM, the Pocket Wing. Then I've done the BRM V2, which is the Kanaha and the Ka. I've never touched the new Maliko.
Yeah.
NSYS, I've flown around a little bit. The North Ranger.
Yeah.
Pocket Rocket, Ozone. And I flew the POW a little bit in a parking lot. Never got on the water with it.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, my list is basically the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
I want to feel that F1 though.
Yeah, that's what I'm really waiting for, and that's why I wear the shirt.
You're just hoping if you same with me. I'm like, if I wear the hoodie,
this is my ozone. Like that's kind of what I hope for. And I sent out. They shipped them out today, so I've got a 3.5 and a 4 meter. I'm leaving to Spain on Monday, so I sent them an express label. So hopefully it gets here by Friday.
Yeah.
Which would be my goal, and then hopefully I can take it to Spain, and then I'll leave one behind for the boys.
Nice.
Yeah, and if not, you could just ship them to me, Dylan. Just send them on over.
Right, exactly. Yeah, same here. Yeah, well, so similar lists, although, so I'll just run down like, okay, like Z to A or A to Z. I mean, there's this outfit, new brand called Aaron, which is actually, one of these, they own a bunch of different brands. They actually own the original windsurfer brand, and they launched this new Aaron Parawing brand. They're out of the Netherlands. They sent me a wing to test. Really good. AERYN. And then, BRM, same thing. Maliko, Kanaha. I didn't really get on the water with a Ka, but I've flown it. Duotone Stash.
Oh,
Flow
that one
D-Wing.
too. Yeah. I've done the Duotone.
Oh, the Duotone, yeah.
Right. The D-Wing, and I know they've come out with kind of an update, but still more or less the same overall thing. Fly Surfer POW. F1's, the Frigot. I flew the 3.5, several sessions on that, as well as their K-Wing, mini inflatable thing. The Nash Morph, the Ranger Pocket Rocket, and then also 777, which is another paraglider company like Flow. Yep. They're out of Slovenia, and I'm a paraglider as well, so I know some of these paraglider brands, and those guys sent me like their PT Toe, which is a double skin Parowing, and they've since come out with a PT skin, a single skin as well, which I have not flown. So thanks first of all to all those brands for sending me stuff.
That's amazing. Yeah, I forgot to mention the D-Wing, the Flow, because it's probably one of the earlier ones that we got. And I've been looking at the 777s for that double skin to see what that would be like, right? So I'm curious to hear thoughts on that for the different criteria of like packing up and stuff versus just sailing.
Yeah, totally. So, how do you want to go through them? I mean, alphabetically?
I think let's start with F1 just because I think it's the new one and it sounds like you've got your hands on it. And I know folks will be interested to hear what your thoughts are on that. And then maybe we'll just kind of tackle them. I think maybe just hit the most relevant too. Yeah. We'll start there, and if we can get to the other ones, because we don't want to be on here for 3 hours.
For sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people are excited about F1's product, about the Frigot.
Is what is a Frigot?
It's a bird.
What?
It's a ship. Bird. It's a ship. Yeah, it's both.
Is it not a bird?
Yeah, it's both.
Okay.
I think the ship is perhaps named after the bird. They chose not to name theirs after a penis metaphor.
Nice.
And I mean, F1, I never owned any F1 kites, but I did fly some of them back in the day, like in Brazil. My whole Brazil crew, a lot of them are F1 riders. And man, whenever I got to fly those, those bandits, I was just like, what? These are awesome kites. They just seem to do everything really well. And I know that was the design program for that Bandit, was like they wanted one kite that would do everything well. And I feel like that must have been the design program for the Frigot, because it really does do everything pretty well. There are some Parawings that do, a couple of things that pack down better, let's say. But that was my feeling, was that in terms of, speed and upwind angle and stability and the wind range and the construction, right, and the user friendliness and the overall package, the F1 Frigot is super, super impressive. And it looks bitchin' too. It's got all these cool colors and...
Yeah, it looks really good. I saw your video of you sailing it around. It looked fast. I reached out to a couple people that have done back-to-back testing of the ozone and the Frigot together, and they were impressed. They said it was just maybe the lines are a little bit shorter, so it felt a little bit, the handling felt maybe a little bit more twitchy versus the ozone, maybe because of the line length, or maybe it was just their sensation that day. I'm not sure.
I wouldn't say twitchy. I would.
Sensitive?
Yes, the lines they're shorter than the pocket rocket, and a little bit longer than the Kanaha. So they're in between there. To me, that's like in the right size zone. And again, the line feel it's very similar to the BRM. So total thumbs up on the line feel. Super stable. And again, like across the wind range, right? So there's good low end power, and the wing just remains stable all the way through the wind range and way into the heavily powered zone, extends quite a ways. And it gets to like a question that a lot of people ask, can I just replace my wings with these new Wangs? And the key question there is, what's the effective wind range? Is the wind range wide enough to just go out and use in, for all around riding, and especially where you've got like widely varying wind speed. I just felt super comfortable. Yeah. Again, with the range and all the little features, the bar, the harness line. It comes with a harness line, and it comes rigged in the right place, so you don't have to wonder, like, where should I put the harness line? I mean, these are little things, but it's nice, right?
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, I think, there's a reason that they're coming out now and not 6 months ago. And I think that stands true to their name as F1, and they want to come out with a product that they truly believe in. And I don't think they were really worried about being behind the pack, because they knew that they had some catching up to do. And just before that, they had launched the Plume, the K-Wing, right?
Yeah.
Which was kind of their iteration and their kind of vision of what Parawinging was giving them, right? So I think, coming up with the Frigate afterwards, of course, they had to fill that gap. And I think from hearing, everybody talk about it, I think they did a really good job. So I'm excited to get on that one.
Yeah, I don't really have any criticisms of the Plume. Again, you could say, well, okay, it doesn't pack down quite as small as, let's say, the BRM Parawings.
Oh, you mean the Frigate?
Yeah.
Sorry,
the Frigate, exactly.
Yeah.
I
was like, the Plume's definitely not going to pack down.
That's not going to pack down, right? But there's going to be there are a few little trade-offs like that. But again, that's only critical if you're packing the wing down, just constantly, if that's your top criterion above anything else.
So does it have the same kind of, the ability to blow off that speed at the top end of the range like the Ozone does? It kind of sounds like it was handling pretty similar in the wind range to what you get out of the Ozone.
Yeah, I did. That is what I saw. And I was even a little surprised, because I think the Ozone is, I don't know the numbers, but it looks a little higher aspect. And certainly when most people jump on the Ozone pocket rocket, that's their first impression, is like, wow, this thing goes fast, and it goes fast easily. It's very slippery in the air. And that is true. But then when I looked at my little GPS watch while I'm riding, I felt like I was able to maintain like higher average speeds more easily, even with the Frigate than with the pocket rocket. I mean, the difference is not much, but when you see like a number higher, you notice.
Yeah. And what about the low end compared to the pocket rocket? Because I think we can try to compare these two, because I mean,
they're both pushing for that performance edge.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, and for like an all around use. For me at the low end, that was another piece. I mean, I feel like the structure of the Frigate gave me more at the low end. Maybe also this the shape, it's just a little more rounded, as opposed to being a little more higher aspect with the square tips.
Right.
Again, it's, I didn't have every single day the ability to back the same exact size of every different combination, of course, you know what I mean? But I feel like the the F1 Frigate has great low end as well.
What is the sizes that's going to come in? So what are we looking at for the gaps in the sizes? Because I think that's another interesting topic. Obviously,
Yes.
Greg, you got a size every about 0.8 meters. Square meters, and then obviously ozone, the gaps are bigger, and but yeah, what's the sizes they're going to come out with from that?
I think the Frigate is like 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, and then a 4.7.
Yeah, 3.6, 4.7. Yeah, so 2.5, 3, 3.6, 4, 4.7.
You can go ahead and order me the 3.6 and the 2.5, Dylan. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think it's
is it a 3.6? Because
no 3.5 because I
really?
flew it. It's a 3.5.
Yeah, because now I feel like I put it wrong on my website.
Better get that.
Better figure that out.
Fire up your editor.
That's me.
Yeah, so it's basically half sizes. But to your point, Walt, like, I think that's standard with most inflatable wings as well. And that doesn't mean that the designer intends you to buy all of the half sizes. It's to give people the choice to build a quiver, how they want to build a quiver. Most people, are going to use a 1 meter spacing, more or less. So like a 2.3, 4 or a 2.5, 3.5, 4.7, for example, in that case. Others like Ozone have, it's more spaced, a little more proportionally. That's how Greg does it too. So that, his intention, I think, is like, well, you don't skip a size, just buy the series that fits the wind range that you ride in.
Yeah, because I agree with the BRMs, like Ozone, you could totally skip the 3 meter and go like the 2.4 and the 3.6, or go the 3 meter and the 4.3. And like, there's enough overlap in those size ranges where it'll work. Whereas, at least for me, I bought all the sizes of the Ka'as, and then I've got a few of the Kanas. And I definitely don't there are gaps. Like, I don't own a 2.9, and between the 2.3 and the 3.6, there's a total dead zone there where I just I don't have a Parawing to cover that gap, So I think it just depends on the range of them, whether you can skip or not. But yeah, totally.
Well, it's the high end of the range makes a huge difference in how much you can hold power down and accelerate.
Totally.
Right, is where the Ozone and hopefully the Frigate have that advantage, is that you can go into the upper end of the wind range because you're able to hold a lot more power because they're accelerating, the leading edge doesn't deform, they're pushing, right? And you can depower.
Well, I'm waiting on my 2.4 Ozone. I don't have one yet. It was blowing, it was gusting 45 out at Rufus yesterday, and I was able to manage it all day on the 3 meter. And still handle the lulls, and it was fine. Yeah, I think the range, that top end range, is just so important, at least for here. I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but that top end range really changes, because then I didn't have to think about changing my, if it went up 5-10 miles an hour, I don't really need to change my Parowing or my setup. I can still handle that.
Yeah. The thing that I want to keep emphasizing to people about that is, obviously it's important to have this range, just like it would be for an inflatable wing. You don't want to have to come in and, change the wing. That's the main reason, right? But there's part of the reason it's kind of counterintuitive with Parawings, right, is you need that power to get up. And then because of the way a Parawing works as opposed to an inflatable wing, it's just more it's more affected by apparent wind. Right? It doesn't have the structure of a rigid inflatable wing, so that when you get up on foil and you accelerate upwind, and then the apparent wind goes from 0 to 20 on top of what the wind is blowing, right? It doesn't have that rigid structure to maintain the airfoil, and so it's just harder for it to hold itself together at the high end of the wind range. Is that a good explanation?
No, that's totally a good explanation. I completely agree. It's one of the big things that's, takes a lot of adjusting when you go from winging to parawinging, is recognizing that.
Yeah. And so we're still we're still working towards getting the same full effective wind range as an inflatable wing. But, I know what it's like to be totally blown off the water at Rufus, trying to hold down a 3 meter inflatable wing, right? You need a 2 if it's blowing, or less. I don't know, Yeah, exactly. Having that overlap, I guess we're talking about sizes, right? And having some overlap in the sizes that you choose, yeah, so that you don't have a gap, really in your quiver.
Yeah, because if not, you're just going to end up going out there with the wrong gear. And it's funny. Parawinging is just the pop up is such a smooth, gentle, and beautiful process when you're sized right. Right, when you got the right board with the right foil with the right parawing, and when you're not, it is a struggle fuck that will make your brain melt, or you're just getting your shoulders ripped apart in some gusts, right? Or trying to hang on, and then you're doing the rodeo start where you're just literally trying to get to your feet and ride the bucking bronco out. So yeah, I think as we get more range, and it goes back to ease of use and versatility.
Yeah.
As we get more overlap, as we get more range, we get more ease of use. The other thing you were talking about, as far as how the apparent wind affects it, I mean, the ability to keep that sail engaged on the pop-up, and pump it. Yeah. I noticed a huge difference in all of the wings with that too. And I thought that was one of the ones where when I kind of got it with the ozone, it just felt really good. Sounds like you kind of have a similar experience where it loads and it holds that load pretty well during the pop-up.
Well, there's a lot of Parawings that do well at the low end, and to me, they're all the ones that have a little bit more structure. They've got the kind of cross bracing and the structure in the wing, so that when you unweight after you've pumped the board and the foil down and it's coming back up, and then you give that wing a pump, then that it has the structure to kind of catch that gust and give you a little yank. Whereas to me, the BRMs they have less structure for sure. Yep. And even though the low end is not bad at all, it has less structure, and also the duotone, I would say the same thing.
Those are both that lighter material, it seems, too, right? So probably like more flex and more stretch in that material when you're pumping it, whereas ozone, thicker material, and then it's got whatever that bracing is, that line that runs across the leading edge, which obviously takes the stretch out, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's stretch, but I think, yes, it helps to hold the structure of the wing together. I mean, I would jump around a little, but like there are a bunch of Parawings out there that, like the Ranger, right? I mean, North told me when they sent it to me, they said, look, don't expect this to do well at the high end of the wind range or going upwind. It'll go upwind, but it's not designed to race upwind. So fair enough, right? But does it have low end? Does it pump well? Yes. And that's what their first, Parawing, that's what it's designed for.
And if you're just downwinding, that might be all you want. Something that feels solid in your hand. You can pop up short lines, pack it away easily. You're right. It's about finding. Greg kind of hit on it. He's got his 3. Now, do you need 3? Maybe you only need 2 in the range, really. But there is the downwind specific, and then there's the more sailing focused direction. And I think if you are interested in sailing, well, you'll probably be good enough using your equipment you use for sailing that you'll be fine using it for a downwind, right? But somebody who's specifically like, I just go out and downwind, they may not want to deal with the mess. They want to have something that packs away easy, shorter bar, smaller collapse. And that completely makes sense because there's so many places where so few people are sailing still. Even though it's a great place to sail, it's just the downwinding so good. Why would they? Yeah,
there you go. And also, like, if you're just downwinding, you can use a bigger wing that lets you just get up, easy. You don't have to, there's no question about getting up, and you're going to put it away. So it doesn't really matter about this whole thing about being overpowered or heavily powered, going upwind. It just matters a lot less. But hang on. Isn't the whole point of this thing to go sail back upwind?
That's the cool part. I mean, that's the future, right? I think, and also the potential in the surf. I mean, we see people tapping into it in Maui in a big way this last season. And as we get these easier to use, more efficient sails, I mean, I was intimidated to go surf session this last year with the V1 BRM. I didn't do it. I looked at the surf a lot. I'd go winging and be like, nah, I'm not going to go tackle it this season. I'll just downwind with it. But well, I mean, like Dylan said, I'm not touching my wing again. Like, there's a Parawing is it, especially for surf sessions. Like, I cannot wait to get out there with whether I'm on the Frigate or the Ozone, the Pocket Rocket or whatever. I mean, look, this is hardly a year.
Yeah, not even a year.
Hardly
but
been
it
a year.
Feels
so,
like 5.
So, like coming back to the North Ranger.
Yeah.
Like when we were trying that and testing it, our what I wanted out of a Parawing was very different because we didn't know any better, right? We didn't know what we were going to use it for. The market didn't know what they were going to use it for. You know, for me, it worked spectacular. And then that's what came out. It's grunty, it's easy to pack, it's super stable, and it's got lots of power. Yeah. And then, you know, I could sail it upwind. I'm like, yeah, guys, it goes upwind. It goes up and wind enough for me. Like, I don't really care as long as I can, you know, beeline it out, pack it up. I can use a smaller Parawing. It feels good. Right. And then, you know, 3 months later, all these other wings come out. Yeah. And then we're using the Parawing very differently now. Right. So it's just use case. It's just changed. Yeah. You know, so I feel, you know, I feel a lot more comfortable on an ozone because, I mean, I know that's what I want to be using now because I don't want to wing anymore. I want to wing.
I love it. You know, that's it.
We're getting wanging going. So obviously,
Wang's World.
That should be Foil Rat's new intro for sure.
Yes.
So obviously the Frigate, easily we could say that's one of your top 5. I think let's maybe tackle your overall top picks. Maybe it would be the best way to kind of get through the list. Outside of that, we'll maybe start reviewing a few of the other ones and give us the deep cuts.
Yeah. So definitely, Frigate is in the top 5 for sure. And, you know, we've been talking about him, right? BRM, I mean, Greg's a genius, and it comes through in the products. They're amazing. I flew a bunch of the Kanahas, different sizes, as well as the OG Maliko. And if you follow Greg, you follow, you know, BRM on Instagram, you'll see, you know, he's always putting out little tweaks and stuff. And if you update the Maliko in the little ways, I mean, all you do is you move the front lines back a bit on the bar.
It's awesome. Yeah, I got to try one of those. My buddy Dan has his all tuned with the new bar and the adjustment, and it feels very, very similar to his V2s.
Yeah, and has the low end of the
keeps and the grunty, so grunty. Yep.
Yeah. So definitely BRMs, and you know they're winners for the pack down, for the lines, for the agility, you know, nimble flying, the cool super short, super compact bar.
Easy to fly, very intuitive.
Very intuitive, absolutely, very responsive. And you know, part of the thing is the relationship with, you know, the brand and the community, right? And you know, when you're dealing with BRM, you're dealing with Greg, and you know, you can look into his eyes from afar, you know, and it's like you've got a direct connection with the designer, you know. It's a different thing than some of these big global brands where, you know, it's several layers removed. So definitely they're in the top 5. Ozone, of course, the Pocket Rocket is definitely a success, as you'd expect from a brand like Ozone. They're also, of course, one of the top brands in paragliding. I mean, along with kites and wings. So kudos there, and super solid product. Fly Surfer, you know, I had the chance to fly the 2.5, which was very impressive. And I mean, on the water, I used it for a few days. But because the size is, you know, it's so tiny in a way, it you know, it's a little hard to compare to what would be a more normal size for me, which is like a 3.5 or a 4. Mm-hmm. That said, excellent performance. And I was super impressed with the range, again, for a super tiny wing.
It looks very grunty from when I flew it. It was like there's a lot of raw power in it, and I feel like the canopy throughout from front to back it's got this even tension, right? And I think that's what gives it its raw power. I was having a hard time feeling the sweet spot on it, and I was trying to move around the slider because it does have a pulley system, which changes a lot in what the Parowing does in its shape. Mm-hmm. So I was just flying it on the beach, but it felt like, okay, where's the sweet spot? And I was sliding it back and forth. It felt really powerful.
Well, I see a decent amount of them around, and you know, Sam rides those right now. There's only a handful of us really charging upwind and doing like the upwind downwinds. And, he seems to hold pretty aggressive sail angles. Like I'm on the pocket rocket, and typically we'll be pretty similar sail angles, and he's usually on maybe a little bit smaller wing than I am.
Yeah, well, there's only that choice. There's a 2.5 and then a 4. I mean,
is that what it is?
Yeah. Talk about the quiver, the spacing. I'm sure they'll fill that in, but to me, that shows that at least they were confident enough in this wind range, to release it goes 1.7, 2.5, and 4.0. So they're saying, well, hey, you could buy a 2.5 and a 4.0 and that would do it, and that's pretty aggressive. Just fly surfer, the POW felt super easy. I didn't have any trouble kind of feeling that sweet spot. The pulley works. The Nash wing has a pulley, and I didn't feel like it worked so well for me. It just didn't feel intuitive. Whereas the Fly Surfer, it works. It trims the wing. It does what it's supposed to do.
Fly Surfer, like they've got master paraglide. I don't know if they do paragliding. Do they do paragliding as well? But they've got their foil kites are world class Olympic sailing.
Right.
I mean, they know their stuff.
They actually, Fly Surfer is affiliated with, I think it's Skywalk paragliders.
Yeah, Skywalker. And I think a lot of people at the beginning, when BRM came out, they just took a peek. They've got that 4 meter, 5 meter, 6 meter, whatever. They've got that single skin kite that people are using for snow kiting or foiling, and they chopped all the lines off and tried to make that into a Parawing. Right. I did it. And you can see people all over the internet being like, well, I'm not going to pay $1,000 for this. Why don't I just use a Fly Surfer peak and put a vertical bar on it and tie out all the lines? Right. And so,
well, that's what you said, at least.
That's what I said. It didn't work out great for me, but
it was a good Instagram clip.
Which was interesting that Fly Surfer was a name from the beginning, even though they didn't even have a Parawing.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, they totally know how to make wings. I was going to say also that bar, this like J-shaped bar, I'm like, cool. They're innovating here. They've kind of gone their own way. And honestly, the ergonomics, of that bar it's a nice thing because it gives you another way to hold, the bar that kind of is perhaps a better position for your wrist. I've actually gotten a little tendonitis right now from doing all this parawinging.
Well, because we all hold awkwardly at the top of the handle, right? Like like I know I end up with my thumb like over the very end of the handle, which you would never be in that position when you're flying your kite, right? Like you're always in the middle of the bar flying it. Like there's something to be learned there. There's no way that we should all be like wrapping the very top of the bar with our thumb trying to like hold it down for tension. Having some equipment that keeps you from jacking your wrist would probably be awesome to add.
Well, and also when you're at the high end of the wind range, it's like the bar is almost like corked, like it's at an angle.
Totally.
Like it's like doing this weird angle to compensate for all the power that you're trying to hold down, and that it's pulling on the sail is what BRM and Greg tried to mitigate with that fixed non-bridle system, right? The yoke
calls it.
The yoke, right? So that doesn't like get all corked out on an angle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So that J bar, Fly Surfer's J bar mitigates that as well. And that, just a sidebar, it's like that's something for people to be aware of. I think that, the Parawings are still and may remain, I don't know, they're just like the bar pressure, it's higher. I mean, I went winging again the other day after, like 2-3 months of parawinging, and I was like, oh my God, this is so easy. So easy. It's like you barely feel the pressure. Yeah, it's just like fingertip pressure, right? So, I mean, that's true across the board.
Meanwhile, we're just totally locked off, just everything you got hanging onto that thing on an upwind, which is kind of been awesome to be like in such a physical sport again.
Yeah.
That was something I was missing from like the early days of winging when the wings maybe weren't as efficient. Right. You come back, you'd be like, man, that was a great workout. I am wrecked right now.
Yeah. It's much more physical as it is. And, between the holding on to the pair of wings and then the physicality of pumping the board to get up, especially if you've got some wrong size shit, but But yeah, just like watch out for that. You know, I know a lot of us have gotten some tennis elbow, some wrist tendonitis. You know, a lot of us in the let's just say sort of over 50 category at least.
Well, yeah, I'm a climber I was a climber for a long time, and immediately as soon as I started parawinging a bunch, I started noticing some of the same kind of tendonitis issues I would have from, you know, where I'd be overexerting, you know, getting tennis elbow. And I think it's something for us all to be aware of, is like, you got to really be balancing out, doing tricep work and stuff like that to try and keep your arms from getting out of whack and getting a bunch of tendonitis. Because once you get that elbow tendonitis, it's going to hang around. It's one of those things that takes you a long time to get rid of.
Well, and just hook in.
Yeah, just hook in. That's the other thing.
Yeah, you hook in. And you know, that gets back to the high end of the wind range, and you got to unhook to transition, and you know, that sort of thing. So there are those moments. It definitely requires more, you know, more strength. So top 5, those are, you know, we talked about F1, BRM, Ozone, Fly Surfer, and, you know, I would say Flow.
The D-Wing, for sure.
Oh, the D-Wing, yeah.
Yeah, I would say Flow, like, super solid.
Yeah. I think if I was like, for me personally, just going down that list of like the upper end performance, upwind ability, ease of use, right? I haven't tried the F1, but it's right now it's sitting like.
But you got the shirt, so
I got the shirt. So Ozone, you know, the pocket rocket, and then the Flow, the D-Wing for me. Also because I haven't flown the POW, but for me the POW with the long lines feels a lot more sailing, and I still want that all-around use of packing it away and deploying and stuff like that. So Ozone and then Flow. I really like the Flow, and I think it's very comparable. It's just a little bit of a different feel to what the Ozone gives you. And then, you know, BRM Kanaha.
Yeah.
I mean, overall ease of use, that Kanaha is pretty special.
It is.
And it's different, you know, it's kind of in the category of just like the cloud kites, you know, or their own thing. It's like either you love them or you just didn't understand them.
It's its own cult following, you know?
Yeah.
And I think they are beautiful, and I really like them. I just think their range is just a little bit smaller, you know? So you're need it a couple more wings, or you need to gap the sizes correctly. I just don't think I just can't personally get the top end out of it that I need. And then the low end, I need a little bit of a bigger Parowing to use the Kanaha.
I just need that solid feel. I think that's what I realized is like I put so much time into. We're in Puerto Rico, you know. We're lighter winds. We're 17 to like 25 miles an hour is kind of a standard winging day, and so I think. And then we have a lot of days in that like 13 to 15, and so you get really good at that light wind pump start, you know, especially on a semi sinker board. And I think that's what I was looking for in the Parowing, and I just couldn't get it. Like I could never find that place where when I felt it for that split second, I could pump it and really allow myself to interact with the board in the ways that I do with a wing, and kind of slap it off the water and make that exit. And I think that was the thing that really clicked for me. As soon as I got that, I was like, oh, that's what I was looking for. And really that made the biggest difference, because now I can find that sweet spot, even with the smaller Parowing. As soon as I feel it and I have that, I can kind of jump the wind range a little bit. Whereas like with the BRM, it's awesome as long as you put it in the right place, you can kind of glide up. If you go to pump it, it kind of starts to do this jellyfish thing that really kind of takes it out of you.
But then you can pack it up into a peanut.
Oh my gosh, right? It's so awesome. So, every once in a while I go back to it. I'm like, oh, I missed this. Just like, boop, boop, put it away.
It's like one of those, I saw the little slider. You're like, money, time, family, and it just all like shifts like this. You know, like you can never find the perfect balance, and that's what the Parowings are right now. It's like, oh, I want upwind ability, pack ability.
That's just like the foils, you know, and everything else.
You know, it's just
some trade-offs.
Of course.
My take, just to say a couple things are coming to mind. Like my take on the BRM, actually, or at least the Kanaha, is like I was able to, and this is what I've heard from other riders here too, is that the high end is actually like. The thing maintains its shape and flies quietly, even when it's overpowered. And that's something that a lot of, you know, that's very difficult to achieve. So I would say the high end is really good. It doesn't, I can't get this quite the same speed at the same upwind angle out of, let's say, a Kanaha versus like a Frigate or a pocket rocket or the POW. But yeah, the low end, I do get that there's not as much low end.
The high end might just be, I'm on a smaller foil, I'm on like a 700 trying to go as fast as I can. And I really haven't, Kanaha I've only used here in Puerto Rico, and it's a 4.7.
Okay.
So I feel like the size, maybe they're not scaled the same way. Maybe if you're on like a 4 or, you're going
3.2
down,
or,
going down the
2.5.
size range, then maybe it holds its shape a little bit better, and it's got it reacts differently in that higher end. The 4.7, I feel like in my high end, it just collapses on me a little bit.
Oh, really?
And the front of the leading edge will fold in half, but I was putting a lot of pressure on it.
Yeah, well, at some point, yeah.
But the flow in the high end,
right, it'll
just rattle your brain like the.
Oh yeah.
I actually I had a client come in and he ripped the whole side of
his brain.
No, the whole side of the Parowing was ripped down the seam because he was on a 5.5. He was overpowered, and it was just the wingtips collapse a little bit, and the center stays inflated, and it was flapping so much it just ripped the seams out.
Yeah. Well, you could. I mean, my apologies to Felipe Rezende and the guys at Flow, because I made this little video that I shared just in that Parowing group that showed how the flow remains stable even when it's pushed to the point of being overpowered and the tips collapse. And I don't know, they took it as if I was trying to show that it doesn't fly well, as like, actually I was trying to show that,
this thing's pretty badass.
yeah, like it's still controllable even when it's pushed to the point of being completely overpowered. And that didn't quite come across to some people. I know that in their the update that I've seen some of these on the water now, they've kind of chopped the tips off. And I haven't gotten the full description of what they've done, but I think they've improved the handling further to address that tip collapse, but yeah, just to say top 5, like definitely flows in there.
Yeah.
And
it's my top 2.
For you.
From a performance standpoint, I think like it does all the same things the Pocket Rocket can do and probably the Kanaha, but this is where you start talking about the feel differences and like what feel do you like in your equipment and how does it move, and I think that's where that's where I really found the differentiation was the way the Ozone felt to me, the Pocket Rocket felt. It had that whipping, flowy kind of like I'm flying a kite feeling, which was took me back to just like when I was absolutely obsessed and in love with kite foiling. And I don't know, all of a sudden all of those same feelings of like, I can play with this thing and whip it around, where I don't really have that same feeling on the Flow. It wants to just move more quickly through the window. And obviously it doesn't have the same subtleness at the top end, but at the same time, there was no problem getting upwind and having plenty of range, and the pop-up on it is awesome. I mean, the way it feels when you're trying to get up, it just has such a solid feel to it.
Solid. Nice. Yeah, that's great to hear. I would throw one more in as kind of a wild card, and that's this Aaron brand that I kind of dug them up, or I don't know, I must have seen something they posted on YouTube. Their designer did a tech talk, and it was like, okay, they got some interesting features, and they sent me a 4-meter. It's called the P1, Aaron P1, and I would say the only area, it doesn't have the full high end of some of these, let's say the other top 5, but almost. And this is a direct to consumer brand, so the price point is like it's quite a bit less. I think it's like $650.
So should I order one? Is that what you're telling me?
It's very gongy price point.
Yeah, exactly. And like the quality, the flies amazing, goes fast. They also did this cool thing. All the lines are they're all the same length, and they're just all straight. There's no splicing or like second, course of the lines. That they just all fan out, and they're Dyneema, so they're ultra slick and strong. This just feels great in your hand. So yeah, if like price is your number one factor, that's definitely worth checking out.
Price to performance wild card there.
Yeah.
Yeah, 549 euros.
Wow. Yeah, and you can, and it's not just European. I mean, you can, they ship to the U.S. So yeah, that's kind of the top 5, top 6.
Yeah, looks like they got a 3, 4, and a 5 meter.
3, 4, 5, 6, I think. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 6. Yeah, they got a 6 too.
Yep.
And then I guess maybe on the less of the sailing side, more packability, ease of use. Then we've got the BRM Ka. So BRM is there again. You've got the North Ranger, possibly throw the Stash in there. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have an amazing session on the Stash, so I wasn't super, I know it's got that super lightweight material, the very thin lines, the bar is curved so your lines don't snag on the tips, and I took it out and I was less than impressed with its performance.
Well, and I think we all recognize too that some of the larger brands, they wanted to get something to market so people could have something for the season, right? And they could be participating. But I know, everybody's on it. I think some people were decided they're going to get something to market to get a piece of it. And then, V2 from us will be the fix, right? And I think some people went that route. Others waited a little bit longer to enter the market and kind of got their V1 where they wanted it. So, I think it doesn't mean that Duotone's not going to make one of the best Parawings long term, right? Yeah. Even if we don't like the V1, they're all working hard at they're a great design crew and smart crew. So, it'll be interesting to see where we go from here.
Yeah, I think in a case like that, well, especially if you have team riders, pros, that are riding your gear, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I would just say, the Stash is probably great for popping up and going downwind.
Best color setup of all the wings.
And it looks bitchin', that hot pink.
Hot pink with the teal. It's so retro and awesome.
Right.
I wanted to like it so bad.
Yeah. It does remind me of a nuance, a feature, a thing that I want to mention. For example, a lot of the Parawings, I think it's too easy to move the connection points on the bar, and it leaves people wondering, well, should I move the connection point? And if so, where should I put it? And the answer for most people is do not fuck with that. It should just come how it should be. Of course it does, but don't move it.
Completely
you don't know what that's going to do. And again, for the brands, make it so they don't just slip around, please.
Yeah. Or unless you're Greg and you have a full instructional video of where to move it, where to splice the lines, and
well, it goes back to when you're in the cult, it's fine. When you're in the cult, it's 100%. Cool. You just do whatever Greg tells you to do, right? And so it's okay, if I listen to Greg, it's all going to work out for me. But if not, we need fixed bars. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't. It's not like his stuff moves around accidentally.
No. That's not what I meant. But yeah.
Right.
The V1 did a little bit, right? I know I always had a hard time with the B lines on the V1. It was always sliding around, and at a certain point you just kind of give up and you're like, whatever, I just get me up on foil, let's go. But I think in the V2s there, I never had an issue with them moving. He also changed his bar setup, right? He had that kind of, it was like a sleeved piece of webbing that was real slippery, and now he's got a nice, rubber foam handle with the carbon. So it's the new setup, the new bars. I wish I was still using that bar. That bar is awesome. I've switched to the pocket rocket, but man, I miss when I'm trying to shove that meter long bar into my stash belt. It's not a meter long, obviously, but it feels like it sometimes.
It's a yard.
It's a yard. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good point. This is America.
Yeah. Well, just one of those little things. Are there other little things like that have come out for you guys in your riding? I'm just curious that, another one for me is I would love for the brands just include a harness line.
100%. I still don't have it. One that I'm using really. I'm trying to get Dan to make me one that's smaller, because using a wing harness line is just so cumbersome. It's so bulky and stiff and gets tangled, just Velcro everywhere. Yeah, we need simpler options for packaway for sure.
You mean the harness line?
Well, I was just saying, I think, perhaps we just haven't gotten there yet, but it's a feature you're going to need. If you're going upwind, you need a harness line.
Yeah.
And I would just love for hey, if the wing is designed to go upwind, ship it with a harness line that works with the wing. But I was just asking you guys, like, are there other little things like that just reflections for the brands, or that you'd kind of just like to see going forwards?
I mean, I don't know where it can go, right? Like, I'm stoked that where it is right now and the options that we have. And sure, could it be this wing be easier to pack? Could that material be slicker? Could the lines not, rub on my calluses as much? Can it, or whatever it is? Like, there's all these little things that you want it all to be compact and to be like, yes, this is number one because of all of these reasons. But of course, there's I don't know if it'll ever get that way. There's always the realm of what Parowing is good for who, and then there's brand loyalty.
Well, I hope what happens is everybody, through V1s, we all look at where the wins are, because everybody's got a little win, right? There's no Parowing that came out that didn't do something that was like worth looking at and taking back. And so hopefully as we get to these V2s, we start to address all those things, because some will be coming out with harness lines and bars that work better with fixed points or whatever, all these things we're talking about. I don't think anybody's completely cracked the code and got it all yet, right? So I think that'll be what it's exciting to look at in V2. I would love to kind of dig in a little bit on your wild card, because throwing it in there, it's one that nobody's really talking about or has had a chance to get their hands on, and maybe talk a little bit more in performance comparison to some of the other ones like the Frigate and the Pocket Rocket.
Sure, yeah. So again, I think you mean this Aeryn, Aeryn.
Aeryn, yeah.
Yeah, it's just so people can find it if they're curious.
If you just spell it Aeryn, like Arron, Parowing, it's like the fourth thing down. So for everybody who does it wrong, you'll still find it.
Yeah. I throw it in there because, again, like having tested, a dozen, for a new entrant into the market, and especially at the lowest price point out there, I guess along with Gong, but I have not flown, the Gongs. I was impressed. So intuitive, well built, good color coding, and just kind of functionality.
And color coding, you mean like the lines, like the top lines being a different color from the back lines, the front lines?
Yeah, I don't know if the front lines are different, but no, they're not, because the lines are all just white Dyneema, but the leading edge and the bar, it's color coded enough,
But you can tell which way's up, right? Because that is an important thing when you're trying to spin it and you're looking at everything and like, how do I untangle this? Is like quickly identifying, where the front lines are and being able to deal with that.
But then, the sailing characteristics, I mean, speed, stability. Again, like there was a point, if like, for me, I describe it as outrunning the wing. And I know this feeling from kiting and from winging, that depending on your foil and sail combination, it is possible to, outrun the sail. That is, you're going upwind and your foil can hold an angle that's higher than the sail can hold. Right. And that's part of what we're testing here with these Parowings, and if getting the highest VMG we can. And so with the Aeryn, like I was able to outrun the Wang at a certain point. And what happens is, it seems to me with any sail, with a kite, with a wing, with a Parowing, when that happens is it starts to backstall, right? And then you have to like slow down, bear off, regain your board speed and your apparent wind, and then you can kind of point back up. So I don't give it as high of marks in the maximum upwind angle compared to, again, the other top leaders, but it does go upwind really well and really fast. There's just a sort of a limit to it. And the wing, it flies really well. It's got great grunt. It's got some unique features.
Looks like
it was a pleasure to use. Yeah.
Looks like the
Super
designers
cool.
from Peter Lynn.
Yeah.
And PLKB, which are,
right.
I mean, some of the first kites that ever existed, right?
Yeah.
Ram air
exactly.
kites. that almost looked like sea kites. They're like, the curvature of them with the square tips. Those Peterlin kites were something interesting.
Yeah, they've got some good, legacy there on the design side.
Yep.
So yeah, I just flew the 4 meter. Would have been cool to also try the 3. But anyway, yeah.
3 is kind of a magic size for the Parawings, right? Like you get down to that 3 meter, and man, the maneuverability and there's just something sweet about getting down to that 3 meter size.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 4 it already feels big, for a Parawing.
I started looking at that 4.3 pocket rocket. I haven't actually flown it yet because I haven't had the need, because I can kind of manage, and anything close to 20 I can just do the 3.6. But yeah, it just feels big flying it. I mean, it feels real big. Like imagining doing some of the maneuvers and loops and stuff that I've been playing with that is just going to be a lot different. So I think aspect does play a big role in maneuverability. When you look at, like, what are your conditions? Or, are you sailing in Puerto Rico? We're talking about 4 meters and 5 meters. That's what we're thinking about and talking about and trialing all winter, because we don't have the wind speeds. I think the thing we noticed with the BRMs is you can tell they were built in Maui a little bit, or at least these things work there because there's so much wind. And when you get to these super high wind speeds, the 2-3, it works great with those super short lines and stuff. But, when you're in gustier conditions or whatever, maybe it's not performing as well. It's just interesting how they get designed out. And there is definitely a performance difference, at least I think we've noticed, and I'm sure you have, with each brand too, where like maybe the smaller sizes are performing really, really well, but then you get to the bigger sizes and there's some nuances there that are missing, and vice versa.
Sure. Yeah, totally. It's a good point. I did most of my Parawing testing and progression this spring as we came into like a very windy stretch here. We had like 2 months of 3 meter conditions. And that was amazing because it was also like sunny and beautiful. And then, we also have a lot of 5 meter conditions here. These days, the inflatable wings are so good. I've got core halos. They're so stiff and light. It's like, the 5 meter is a pleasure to use. But after my episode with Foil Rat, right, when I said, some of these Parawings are good enough to just replace your inflatable wings, someone said, well, maybe, but not in lighter wind. And I said, fair, because I haven't flown any 5 meter Parawings. I don't know that I would want to, if I could. I don't know.
They're intense, man. They're intense.
Yeah. Unrelated or maybe related, but I one of these things that so there's certain things that everybody talked about early on, with Parawings was like, do they go upwind? It was like, well, yeah, bro, they go upwind. That's been settled long ago, right? But tangles, there's this people, I don't even know if they talk about it, but they, like, a lot of people write about how, I've seen this in reviews. They're like, oh, you're going to get tangled. It's like, actually, I don't think so, man. Even with all these lines, is that a big issue? It's not for me.
Oh, you mean like getting tangled in your lines, like falling in them and stuff, or tangling?
Or just getting tangled up, really? I mean, it doesn't happen as much as people think it might, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I think when you start, at least, you're going to pack it away poorly. I think this is maybe more of a downwinding thing than it is a sailing thing. Because when you're sailing, you learn how to use the Parawing. Well, you're sailing it and you put it in your hand and then you sail. And then when you start to go to that pack down for the first time, I think it's pretty easy, unless you have a really good system. Slide the bar through the lines or something. And then if you haven't
you're also not a very good downwinder. You haven't like glided on a bump for more than 100 meters. Then you're like, you run
over it,
and you're like, and you're like just focusing on your foiling, and then who cares?
Yeah.
And then it'll get all tangled up, right? So we're watching Dimitri. We see you and we see what you're doing. I've asked him to be on the podcast. He said my English not so good. I'm like, well, nobody cares.
Yeah, I keep
express
telling
yourself.
Our English is very mediocre, also, so it's fine.
Exactly. I mean, just like Wang's World.
Yeah.
I mean, So,
but yeah, I mean, I think if you haven't had a lot of kiting definitely helps, right? Like dealing with kite lines and the comfortability of multiple lines and looking at the spaghetti mess and going like, okay, I can figure this out. I think those are things that ease up the tension of the tangles and the fear of tangles, right? But I agree, as you get comfortable with the products, tangles become way less of an issue. But I mean, I do get why people talk about it. I think it is one of the scarier pieces of the learning curve is like, okay, I go out, if I pack this piece of equipment down, when I pull it back out, is it still a usable piece of equipment or am I fucked? You know, and I think that's where there's maybe an absurd fear of the tangles that really isn't necessary because let's be real, none of them are that hard to solve.
Well, I had somebody go out in Cabaret. They used the North Ranger for the first time. He's a winger, really good winger. Went out on the mid-lane.
Winger, not a wanger.
Winger, not a wanger. And he went out, and then after a little bit, he was paddling back on his board. And I was like, why doesn't he just deploy the sail and like come dragging back in? And he came all the way to the beach and then he walked all the way back upwind and it was just a tangled mess. And he's like, I don't know how to figure this out. It was like, he's like, this is just beyond me. You know, and it took me 4 seconds to figure it out. But being in the water, it catches water, you fell on it or whatever, then it could feel very overwhelming.
It's a thing. Yeah, no, I hear you. I just want to, the reason I brought it up is just to encourage people, like, that it's not as bad as you think, and you only have, a meter and a half or less of line, and it can't really tie itself in a knot. Just take a couple of deep breaths. Usually, it's like it's gone through itself once or something like that.
It just can look horrible, right? Like one pass through the bar with the wet mess, all of a sudden it just looks like it's horrible and you're in this big mess that you're not going to be able to get out of. But it's never, like you said, it's never that bad. As long as you can solve a Rubik's Cube in the dark with one hand, you'll have no problem untangling your Parowing.
Totally. Exactly. That's the thing. In surf, in breaking waves. Yeah.
In breaking waves.
You're good. That's probably, and that's all we have to say here.
Okay, we'll wrap it up here.
So conclusion is, we don't really know.
Yeah.
Conclusion is Parowing is fucking awesome. That's the conclusion.
Like all these Parowings are just awesome, and I'll use any one any day of the week if I if I didn't have a choice, then whatever, I'll just go out and sail around and pack it away and do my downwinder, untangle the lines, and get back at it.
Yeah, stop waiting, right? Stop waiting to jump into this sport. The gear is definitely good enough. Get on something.
Stop waiting, start wanging. That's it.
Stop waiting.
There you go, dude. Stop waiting, start wanging. That's the bumper sticker, boys.
Yeah. Gonna print a shirt.
Yeah.
But, we could get into a lot of things, but I think it's better left for another podcast because I could go on for days about the who's going to use it, the who's getting into it. Are they kiters? Are they wingers? Are they, there's a lot of frustration that could come around it. Are they downwinders already? Are they not? Right?
Yeah.
So, I understand people's hesitance to get into it because you could go out for a couple sessions and think it's horrible. And why not? Because it could be horrible, and maybe it's not the Parowing. Maybe it's just you. Wrong board, wrong skills, wrong foil, because I'm telling you, all these Parowings are going to get you up on a foil eventually if you put enough time into it. And trust me, it's not the Parowing's issue. It's yours.
Right,
and then if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, then pick your sail to preference. And they've all got something for you, whether it's ease of use of pack, great sailing ability, nimbleness, less bar tangles, affordability. Pick and choose, and I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think
what a privilege that we can nitpick.
Yeah.
Right?
All these
and be
little...
like, these lines are so smooth.
They just don't feel right.
This bar is not curved. It hurts my wrist. I'm wanging so much it hurts my wrist. You're like,
exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I mean, maybe to as a way of kind of wrapping it up, it's like I think in the beginning when we saw Parowings and people started first doing it, it seemed like the wind range was going to be less. There were going to be all these tangles. It was going to be hard to get up on foil, and it was just going to be harder overall to do. And I think we're already seeing that, at least for, some people, some conditions, with some of the equipment, we're already at the point where it's actually not, it's not harder. It's something that a novice, could do in the right conditions with the right gear already. And it's still not even a year in. So, yeah, I'm pretty psyched.
Yeah. Yeah. We are also psyched. We're changing our podcast to the X-Foils Wang podcast.
Since all we've talked about the last 5 episodes.
I mean, how could you not?
How could you not? It's changing the sport.
Right. Well, right now it's the most exciting thing, unless you're on a K-Wing. Then Parawing's the most exciting thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's whatever's new. Let's be honest. Foil drive is old news. We don't want to talk about that anymore.
The Parowing is connecting the dots. I think you kind of touched on it in the beginning of this, is you're like, well, I'm really good at going straight fast, and now the Parowing, it's turning me into a surfer and not just a sailor. And not to say you weren't wing surfing and doing all those things, but I don't care how much wing surfing you do. It's still not the same holding that wing and fully being reliant on your board and your connection to the foil in the water with no balancing point. Because even a stalled, in the neutral position hand wing still gives you some stability. And when you remove that, it really lets you tap in a new way. So this sport is just kind of, again, it's connecting winging to downwinding to free surf foiling. And I mean, that's just really magical how that's all coming together. And from watching it happen, and to kite foiling, oh my God, the kite foiling connection, I forgot how much I missed that feeling of having these lines and this thing that's kind of playing in the air that I'm reacting to. It's almost the same way we react to a moving bump in the water or a wave, right? You're reacting to how that moves. You don't have a fixed point that you're, kind of roughly moving around in the air and trying to stay loose with. So yeah, it's just been really cool to watch. And I think that's why it's so exciting, because it really is kind of sewing all of the things together, and everybody who jumps into this sport will now be a better foiler across all disciplines for it. And that's the whole point of pushing the sport forward. Even foil drive, right? This takes away, I see less foil drives in the gorge this year, because those people who were foil driving were probably not really willing to put the work in, or had, pop up is tough. That is one of the toughest athletic things I've ever had to kind of conquer to do a sport. And I think that the Parowing all of a sudden has shifted to where those foil drivers are now Parowinging, because they were probably already a winger or something. You don't just foil drive for no reason, right? So I think it's pretty cool.
Well, you could for no reason.
You probably yeah. Whatever.
No, I hear you. That's
you get my point.
Yeah.
Good, because I don't. So we'll go from there.
Yeah. No, that's it, right? It puts it together, gets us to a new level of progression, gets us back to that beginner's mind, with the surfing and the sailing together, right? The foil riding and the sailing, the kite flying, gets us into it's like 3D chess in 3 different ways. Maybe that's what it is, right? Mm-hmm. The flying of the kite and the wing, the sail, the wang, the flying and riding the foil, right? And then
it's just a little bit more of it's more of an intricate dance,
There we go. I love that.
Yeah. So you're just
the intricate dance.
There's more movement that I'm in control of.
We all know, what is that song? If you ever studied piano, it's the Flight of the Bumblebee. There's the intricate dance of the wang.
Yeah. The intricate dance of the wang. There we go. We'll probably leave it at that. The intricate dance of the wang. From the guy with the Mike Slab hoodie.
I love it. You guys, dude, Dylan, Walt, thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. And if nobody learned anything from this, which they haven't, exactly. your article will come out with the nitty-gritty, because we don't know how to stay on subject. But while you write this article that's going to get down to the bottom of it, it will. And if people like to read anything that's beautifully written, then they can go to the Inertia and check out your article. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, again, we'll time this so that'll be out by the time, if you're listening to this, and it'll be on theinertia.com in the gear section.
Yeah, it'll be right there on the screen. So
Yeah, exactly, right.
I don't know how to do that. Click here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. The link, we'll put the link up here in the show notes, and you can find me on Insta, Bowen Dwelle. We'll put it out there too, of course.
Yeah.
Bowen,
We'll
super good to meet you. I hope we get to go wanging soon, man.
Yeah, me too. Right on. Yeah, I'm sure we'll cross paths. Yeah, it's been a blast. Yeah, cheers.